The Fairly OddParents and New Wish continues to blow me away on almost every front. Not only has it been doing a great job making the new main characters Hazel and Dev extremely likable despite some of their questionable decisions, but it's also been reintroducing old characters in ways where they'll either have genuine relevance to episode-specific plots, or taking it a step further by continuing to have said old character appear more in future episodes where they'll have overall plot relevance. It's not just random cameos with zero substance, and said cameos don't really overshadow the new aspects. At least so far, the crew seems to have really struck a good balance between old and new that I'm really hoping they'll be able to continue with this same pace with future seasons. So I wanted to take this video to go over every returning character from the original that's appeared in New Wish so far. Assuming season 2 will get greenlit, which unfortunately as of writing this video has not happened yet, I'll definitely do another one of these down the line. Please God, don't let this show die after one season. First ones, and the most obvious, Cosmo and Wanda. Almost didn't even put these guys on here because their return wasn't really much of a surprise or anything like a lot of the others on this list. These two were all over the promo material with Hazel months before the first episode even aired, but technically speaking, they are returning characters, now serving as Hazel's godparents and helping her adjust to new life in Dimmadome without having her older brother Anthony around on a consistent basis anymore. Both of them still being voiced by their original voice actors Darren Norris and Susan Blakesley. The three of these guys get into all kinds of wisp-based shenanigans just like they did with Timmy. One big improvement I've enjoyed with Cosmo and Wanda's dynamic is how they went back to being a lot more of a happy, wholesome couple as opposed to the extremely overdone bit of Cosmo hating the concept of marriage and Wanda being made out to be an overbearing control freak. Hopefully it can stay that way. Despite not having any speaking lines, yet, the Crimson Chin had a quick appearance in the first episode. The fake Timmy Turner mentioned he was acting as a bus driver for the new Crimson Chin movie. Also, for those who still think this guy is actually Timmy, feel free to read this article where producers of the show Lindsay Katai and David Stone say Timmy will not be showing up at all until further notice. The full link to that article will be in the description of this video. Not really holding out too much hope for the Crimson Chin to show up either. I mean, he just doesn't really seem to fit Hazel's personality right now. Plus, even if he did return, he'd probably have to be recast since Jay Leno voiced him in the original, and that guy is 74 now. Obviously, you can still, voice act when you're older, but I mean, I just don't know if Jay Leno's going to want to return for Fairly OddParents, but we'll see. Jorgen Von Strangle, very tough fairy, is also back, still being the top dog fairy and de facto ruler of fairy world. Jorgen's personality pretty much stayed the same, very intimidating, a bit arrogant, yet quite funny when need be. His new design definitely has some noticeable differences though. His newish outfit has a more casual look to it, now wearing a sleeveless sweater vest and polo shirt underneath, as well as shorts, long socks, and a 5 o'clock shadow to show his increased age over the decades. While I do like the new design a bit, I think I prefer the old one a little bit more. As someone who takes pride in his fashion sense, the old fit just looks more well-rounded to me, fully embracing the military general aesthetic, while this new one can't decide if he wants to start running drills or golf 18 holes. Dimmadome is also back and has much more relevance this time around, from only having speaking lines in a single episode in the original to becoming one of the more notable antagonists in New Wish. It's still so crazy and hilarious to me how this guy was probably forgotten by most viewers and was brought back and fleshed out in a way that makes total sense considering what he went through as a child. In New Wish, he's a business tycoon just like his father Doug, and his bad parenting to Dev is on full display anytime he shows up, caring so much about his business endeavors that he'll spend more time trying to figure out how Hazel suddenly has a successful life without any monetary factors than spend quality time with his son. Dale's voice actor is also different now. He was voiced by D. Bradley Baker in the original one episode and is now voiced by J.P. Karliak. I really like his new design too, somewhat following in his father's footsteps by wearing cowboy boots, but not fully committing to the cowboy look by wearing a gold-studded jacket. I also really like the attention to detail about Dale still only having one real tooth like he did when he was younger, but because he's rich now, he's able to fill the gaps in with fake gold teeth. It's pretty funny to me how this guy's become so pretentious now that regular fake teeth or veneers aren't good enough for him. He's gotta get gold ones just to flex his wealth on the lower class. Dale's father, Doug Dimmadome, was also briefly shown, albeit in his original art style, in the first episode when Dev was bragging to Hazel about his family history. He hasn't officially shown up yet, but I really hope he does at some point because if he's the root cause of the toxic Dimmadome parenting / behavior cycle, he may need to atone for his sins if there's any hope of Dev becoming a well-adjusted child. Father Time is also back, but I'm using the term back very loosely here because he only had one proper appearance in the original series, specifically in the Timmy's Secret Witch episode, and had a much different design than compared to now. He kept the white robe and blue eyes, but has a completely different facial structure, a long white beard, longer nose, balding at the top of his head, and carries a scythe around instead of a giant clock. Pretty cool how he's playing a role in all time-based wishes now. There's been a lot of speculation that Father Time has to get involved with wishes like these now because of how much Timmy misused those kinds of wishes back then, especially in the Secret Wish episode. This hasn't been flat out confirmed yet, but I like to running idea of that being the implication. In the same episode Father Time is reintroduced, there's a musical number Hazel performs about New York towards the end. During a visual montage highlighting the different parts of the city, there's a man that floats by the screen that bears a striking resemblance to Flappy Bob. But because these do have different shoe colors and eye colors, it's possible this is just another fake old Timmy situation where an older design was repurposed and it's not actually supposed to be that same person. Considering the little significance this design had within the context of this episode, that's probably the case. AJ also makes an appearance as the founder CEO of the Galax Institute, making him kind of the de facto boss of Hazel's dad. I'd argue AJ had one of the more drastic design changes of any of the returning characters so far. His face is about the same, just with some facial hair, but this guy is built like Kingpin from Spider-Verse, or that one bodyguard from the Fairly OddParents who guarded the rich kids.
Hey, maybe I can beat the answers out of this kid.
I know his dad was a bit of a bigger dude, but holy lord, they took it to the next level with AJ here. This adult AJ has actually been developing fairy hunting weapons, like one that has the power to turn fairies into fairy dust. I would be very curious to see if he'll end up supplying weapons to Dale in the future, if Dale is able to permanently find out about Cosmo and Wanda's existence. Also, while Hazel is trying to chase after AJ to get Cosmo and Wanda back, a banner with a bunch of different aliens can be seen on a wall. One of the aliens on the banner is Mark Chang, Prince of Yugopotamia. This show hasn't really done a space-centered episode yet, so they could easily bring Mark back later on for that specific premise. Then, of course, the last major cameo for this episode, the return of Mr. Crocker, who's still just as unhinged as we remember him. You can definitely tell he's a senior citizen now with the liver spots around his scalp and complete lack of hair. Presumably no longer an elementary school teacher, he's been trying to prove the existence of fairies so he can officially be a part of the Galax Institute, who would be able to give him the funding to hunt fairies again. I like how they kept the consistency of fairies being powerless against butterfly nets a thing when Crocker covered the building in a giant one. This is just one of the many instances of Newish retaining a lot of the original's unique details with how it handles world building and various magical elements. They even kept in the portion of Crocker's past where Cosmo and Wanda used to be his fairies. Still one of the most unfortunate backstories I've seen in a Nickelodeon show, by the way. Crocker really got done dirty. The reintroduction of Poof/Peri felt like the catalyst that really put the show in the big leagues. Obviously, seeing this character again in grown-up form is great and all. So many people were wondering how they'd make him look, and honestly, they did a pretty damn good job with his design in my opinion. But the best thing about Peri's reintroduction is how he ends up becoming Dev's fairy godparent, which in turn allowed for Dev and Hazel to find out about their respective godparents, and now a lot more interesting dynamics between these two kids can happen, but also with Cosmo, Wanda, and Peri. This technically isn't anything new because the original did have Remy knowing about Timmy's fairies and vice versa, but he's nowhere near as relevant in the original series as Dev is in New Wish, so the New Wish interactions feel a lot more fulfilling. It's kind of crazy how a lot of people saw the introduction of Baby Poof as the start of the downfall of Fairly OddParents quality, but the adult version of him is arguably what made New Wish's episodes quality even better, becoming one of the fan favorites at that. They really struck gold with this guy. Cupid's main appearance so far in New Wish was as more of an episode-specific antagonist. Because of Hazel's wish to have her parents fall in love again, Cupid had to intervene but was not happy about being disturbed. So he forced Hazel into a matchmaking game that had the potential to make Hazel's mom fall in love with another man. Cupid's general design is sort of the same as before, like Jorgen's, but with some noticeable changes. His head is a lot more egg-shaped, his hairline seems to have receded a bit, that's tragic. His eye color changed from blue to pink, and his voice actor is now Young-Yi Chang instead of Tom Kenny. Hazel ends up winning the contest, but Cupid holds the L with a bit of copium on the side. Talking about Cupid's made me get the itch for the April Fool to return, and Darren Norris voiced him before, so it should be easy for him to do it again. The over-the-top Jerry Seinfeld impression, gold.
I'll be here all day! I'll be here all day! What's up with that?
Vicky's return was another big one too. Just like Crocker, she's the exact same person she was back in the day, only now she's moved on from exploiting kids through babysitting to exploiting them through a party princess company she works for. Vicky's design probably went through the least amount of changes of any of the returning cast. Same hairstyle, body shape, and mannerisms. The only noticeable change is the visible bags under her eyes that indicate she's aged up a couple decades. I guess if it ain't broke, don't fix it in this case. In her one appearance so far, she forced Hazel, Dev, and their friends into some child labor for extra money, but her plans were eventually foiled when Cosmo and Wanda in their human disguises called her out on her BS. Would like to see some more of her for sure, but I hope they can get creative with the different business endeavors she'd be partaking in as opposed to going back to the babysitting shtick. Foop, Elkin, Y-Rep, or just I-Rep's return shook up the fan base just as much as Peri did, I think. Seems like people are split about the crew deciding to have him keep a square head. Personally, I think it's pretty funny, but it's equally funny seeing people say the reason they did this was because Foop would be too sexy for his own good now. It doesn't seem like the square head is stopping people from drawing fan art though. He and Dev start working together a bit due to Dev being tired of the traditional rules regular godparents have to abide by. Eventually, things get so bad they're able to successfully take over Fairy World in the season finale, until Hazel and her friends are able to take them down, resulting in Dev losing all memories of fairies until further notice. The Tooth Fairy also has a big role in season 1, fixing the gap in Hazel's tooth. Like Vicky, her new wish design was almost identical to her previous one, only now the tooth on top of her crown is gold instead of mint green. And nice to know she's probably still married to Jorgen though. Good for them. Mama Cosmo, Wandissimo, and Big Daddy made small cameos when the regular fairies were being wound up in the final episode. And last but not least, both Anti-Cosmo and Wanda made brief appearances in the season 1 finale, helping their son and making sure Cosmo and Wanda weren't able to interfere with Dev's plans. They're still as charming and funny as ever, hoping we can see more of them if season 2 gets greenlit. I want to quickly apologize if I sound a bit weird in this video. I got a cold a couple days ago and it is beating my fucking ass, but I still wanted to get this video up before this show unfortunately, fades into obscurity until we get a second season. Let me know in the comments who your favorite returning character was so far and who else you'd like to see potentially show up in the future. I'd love to know your thoughts. Huge thanks to my gold tier patrons, Lunar, Izzy Torium, Draconis, and London Morse. You guys' support really means the world to me. If you enjoyed this video, don't be a stranger to leaving a like down below and subscribing for more content like this in the future. But for now, I will see you guys next time. Peace out, take care, bye-bye.